Most men chase presence like a perfume. They don't realize it's the silence that makes people turn. Sit with that for a second. Presence isn't something you spray on. It isn't something you fake. It isn't even something you buy. It leaks through when you stop begging for it. You think presence is money? Wrong. You think it looks? Wrong again. Those are bonuses, not foundations. Presence is what makes people notice you before you speak. It's the air that shifts when you walk in, and the brutal truth? You already have it. You've just buried it under noise. Ask yourself, why do some men enter a room and everyone feels them even if they don't say a word? Why do others scream, brag, laugh loud, and still vanish like smoke the second they leave? Because presence isn't an addiction. It's subtraction. It's not about piling on jokes, stories, or flashy outfits. It's about cutting away desperation. He didn't try harder. He stopped trying. He didn't force attention. He commanded stillness. Picture this: a crowded party, music blasting, drinks spilling, everyone performing. And then there's one man, calm against the wall. No phone, no chatter, no need to prove. People glance at him again and again, like gravity has picked a favorite. He doesn't beg for attention. Attention begs for him. If he scrambles for validation, you withdraw yours. If he forces laughter, you give silence. That's how the frame flips. Presence isn't chasing, it's refusing. Let me tell you the paradox. The less you reach, the more they learn. The less you explain, the more they wonder. The less you rush, the more they wait. That's why men with presence don't compete. They conserve. They let others burn themselves out while they remain unshaken. So when you catch yourself over-talking, filling every gap with noise, remember this rule: if he floods the air, you dam the river. Hold the silence. Watch the room adjust. Presence is not gifted. It's not a magic trait reserved for tall, rich, or handsome men. It's the discipline of stillness. It's the refusal to audition, the courage to let absence speak louder than performance. And here's the punchline. People will call it charisma, mystery, aura, but you'll know the truth. You didn't invent it. You revealed it. You didn't scream for the spotlight. You let the spotlight realize it couldn't ignore you. Because the world doesn't chase noise. It turns to silence. And that silence is already in you. You already have a presence. You just don't notice it because you keep drowning it out with distractions, diluting it with noise, or apologizing for it like it's some mistake. Presence isn't something you build from scratch. It's something you stop destroying. Think about it. How many times have you walked into a room and people glanced at you for a split second, but you looked down, fumbled with your phone, adjusted your shirt, and broke the spell? You had it. You leaked it away. Presence is natural, but distraction murders it. Delusion murders it. Apology murders it. Every time you over-explain, every time you fill silence, every time you laugh at your own joke, you tell the room, "Don't take me seriously." So here's the truth. This isn't about teaching you gimmicks. It's about stripping away what kills your power, what drains it, what turns a man into background noise. He didn't lack presence. He smothered it. He didn't get ignored. He ignored himself first. Picture this. A man sits at a table in a crowded cafe. Everyone else is scrolling, slouching, fidgeting. He's upright, calm, sipping slowly. He says nothing, yet people keep noticing him. Why? Because stillness is louder than chaos. If he fills the air with chatter, you fill it with silence. If he bends over backward to impress, you stand still and let the room adjust. That's the rule, and that's what this whole script will give you. The mechanics of presence. What kills it instantly? what amplifies it without you lifting a finger, and how to use it with integrity, not manipulation. Ask yourself, how much longer will you keep pretending you're invisible? And when will you realize that presence isn't earned by begging, but by refusing to beg at all? Because you don't need to chase it. You need to stop apologizing for it. You've been lied to about charisma. Everyone sells it like a product. Do these tricks, copy these body language hacks, memorize these lines. That's clown training, not presence. Presence isn't something you manufacture, it's something you reveal by cutting out the nonsense that's been smothering it. What if presence isn't built but uncovered? What if it's not about adding but subtracting? You've been told to perform, to exaggerate, to fake confidence until you make it. But the louder you try, the more invisible you become. Loudness isn't presence. Noise is cheap. Stillness is expensive. Anybody can shout, but very few can sit in silence without folding. That's why the loud guy in every group gets ignored after 5 minutes, because he has no gravity. He throws energy everywhere but holds nothing. Meanwhile, the man who moves less, talks less, and wastes less energy, he shifts the air without effort. You've seen it. At a crowded bar, one man says nothing, yet everyone adjusts around him. He didn't push, he pulled. He didn't chase, he attracted. Picture it. Music blasting, drinks spilling, everyone competing for attention. In the corner, one man leans against the wall, silent, calm. He speaks 3 words the entire night. Yet people orbit him as if gravity itself decided to wear a leather jacket. That's presence. So ask yourself, are you performing like a jester or holding like a king? Do you want to be remembered as background noise or as the man the room can't ignore? If they're overcompensating, you understate. That's the rule. When others perform like circus acts, you anchor. When they scream for attention, you don't compete, you conserve. He didn't need to dance on tables. He let others exhaust themselves. He didn't fill the silence. He ruled it. That's why he stood out. Not because he tried harder, but because he didn't need to. You think presence is about learning clever lines? Wrong. Presence is what happens when you no longer beg for approval, when you stop auditioning, when you can sit in a room and let your calmness infect everyone else. And here's the paradox. You'll be noticed more when you do less. You'll be remembered longer when you speak shorter. You'll gain power not by chasing attention, but by refusing to chase it at all. That's why the men who look desperate never win. The moment you beg, you shrink. The moment you try to sell yourself, you cheapen yourself. Presence doesn't come from proving, it comes from refusing. So strip away the lie of manufactured charisma. Stop thinking you need tricks. You don't. You need discipline. You need restraint. You need to cut the noise, not add more of it. Because presence isn't built, it's revealed. And once you stop smothering it, everyone else will finally feel it. Presence isn't performance. It's not a mask you strap on. It's physics, energy, weight, biology. The way you move or don't move shifts how people feel around you. Presence is economy of motion plus certainty of focus. Not flailing, not twitching, not nervous repetition. Controlled energy. The man who wastes nothing commands everything. Think of the jungle. A predator doesn't perform. It doesn't practice tricks in the mirror. It just is. A lion doesn't rehearse eye contact before hunting. It looks, once, steady, unbroken, and everything in the field feels it. Do you think a lion ever needs to fake confidence? Now flip it. Watch the guy who fidgets in his chair, taps his leg, laughs too quickly. The room sees prey, not power. He leaks energy, tells the world he doesn't own himself. If he fidgets, you freeze. That's the rule. The still man wins by subtraction. You already know this instinctively. Late at night, you lock eyes with a security guard at 2 a.m. He doesn't blink. He doesn't move. Before your brain processes it, your chest tightens. Why? Because your nervous system recognizes physics. This man wastes nothing. Presence is what people feel before they think. It bypasses language, bypasses logic, goes straight into the body. That's why a silent stare can shake you more than a loud speech. He didn't chatter, he conserved. He didn't overplay, he withheld. And that restraint made everyone else chase his rhythm. Ask yourself, who do people respect more? The man who jumps to explain every detail, or the man who delivers 3 words and lets the silence carry the rest? Who do you follow, the one who burns out trying to impress, or the one who radiates certainty without effort? Presence isn't in the volume of your voice. It's in the weight of your stillness. It's physics, not theater. So here's your discipline. Stop leaking motion. Stop apologizing with your body. Anchor your eyes. Slow your gestures. Cut the nervous tics. Because the less you waste, the more you weigh. And the man who weighs the most always bends the room. Presence can be built for years and destroyed in seconds. Most men don't lose respect because they're weak. They lose it because of tiny habits that drain their power day after day, until no one takes them seriously. The first killer is over-explaining. You say one sentence, then panic, and add 5 more, like your words need backup. That's a weakness. Every extra word is a silent apology. Why? Because you don't trust your own voice to land. The second killer is apologizing when you don't need to. Sorry, can I just... Sorry for bothering you. Sorry for existing. Do you think kings apologize for standing in their own castle? No. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you shrink yourself. The third killer is rushing. Talking too fast. Walking too fast. Responding too fast. You telegraph to the world. I'm scared you'll get bored. I'm scared you'll leave. I'm scared I don't deserve your time. Why would anyone respect a man who won't even command his own spine? And then there's the phone, the biggest presence killer of the modern age. You think scrolling makes you look busy. It makes you look like prey. Head down, eyes darting, posture collapsed. You look like you're hiding from life itself. Men of presence don't scroll for comfort. They anchor. Here's the brutal truth. The way you move tells the world whether to respect you or dismiss you. If your body says, I'm nervous, no words can save you. If your energy says, I own this space, no words are needed. Picture this. A guy cracks a joke in the group, then laughs at himself louder than everyone else. People smile politely, then look away. He turned himself into background noise. Why? Because the laugh betrayed his neediness. He wasn't sharing humor, he was begging for validation. If they crowd you, you slow down. That's the rule. When people push, when the room gets loud, you don't match them. You anchor, you lower your tone, you steady your pace, and you force them to adjust to you. He didn't chase their attention, he set the rhythm. He didn't speed up to fit in. He slowed down to stand out. Ask yourself, how many times do you sabotage your presence without realizing it? How often do you leak power just because you're uncomfortable with silence? Silence doesn't kill presence. Silence builds it. Nervous habits kill presence. Desperate laughter kills presence. Constant scrolling kills presence. Presence is fragile when you treat it like performance, but it becomes unbreakable when you treat it like physics. A still spine, a calm breath, a deliberate pace. So here's the test. Next time you feel yourself rushing, freeze. Next time you want to over-explain, stop at one sentence. Next time you apologize for nothing, bite your tongue. Because presence doesn't require addition. It requires subtraction. Subtract the begging. Subtract the rushing. Subtract the fidgeting. And what's left is undeniable weight. Respect doesn't vanish because you're poor, short, or young. Respect vanishes because you dilute yourself. And the man who refuses to dilute, he becomes the gravity everyone else orbits. Stillness is the rarest currency a man can carry. Most men bleed energy with constant fidgeting, nervous chatter, desperate motion. But when you hold yourself still, when you speak less, you create scarcity, and scarcity is valuable. The world leans toward what it can't easily get. Presence doesn't need to jump around to prove itself. Presence sits, presence breathes, presence holds the silence, while everyone else scrambles to kill it. Do you think kings rush to fill silence? Or do they let their stillness choke the air until every eye is forced to settle on them? Here's the brutal truth. Men who can't handle silence can't handle power. If silence makes you itch, makes you ramble, makes you fold, then your presence is borrowed, not owned. Picture this. In the boardroom, two men argue, voices climbing, hands flying, egos colliding. The third man says nothing. He just sits, calm, unmoved, unbothered. When he finally speaks, the entire table leans in like children hearing thunder. That's the stillness rule. Eye contact is the same. Most guys think it's about aggression, staring contests, trying to dominate. Wrong. True eye contact is steadiness. It's not about glaring. It's about anchoring. You don't pierce them, you ground them. The longer you hold it, the more their energy cracks. If she tests your silence, you hold it until she breaks. That's the rule. She'll poke, she'll prod, she'll try to make you flinch. But the man who doesn't break his stillness wins without a word. Think of a lion in the savannah. He doesn't twitch, he doesn't rush, he waits. His power is not in the growl, it's in the patience before the strike. The antelope knows, the jungle knows. Stillness is signal, not noise. He didn't raise his voice to command respect. He lowered it until people had to lean in. He didn't flood the room with motion. He absorbed it until every movement revolved around him. Ask yourself, why are you so afraid of doing nothing? Why do you race to fill silence with words that don't matter? That panic is weakness disguised as charm. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence condensed. Stillness flips the script. When everyone else fidgets, you freeze. When they rush, you slow down. When they overtalk, you measure your words. That contrast makes you magnetic. You don't outnoise them, you outlast them. Micro movements give you away. The bouncing leg, the tapping fingers, the twitching eyes. Every twitch says, I'm nervous, I'm unsure. Please don't look too closely. But the man who masters stillness, he flips the frame. He didn't shrink under the gaze, he made the gaze shrink under him. So here's the test. Next time you feel the urge to fidget, lock in. Next time you want to break silence, hold it. Next time you want to glance away, keep your eyes steady. If he moves, you stay still. If he cracks, you hold. The strongest room presence isn't loud, it's gravitational. It's the weight of a man who doesn't chase attention, but bends the room toward him simply by existing. Stillness is scarcity. Scarcity is valuable. And the man who masters silence never has to ask for respect. He makes the world hand it to him. A man with no standards is a ghost. He walks into a room and dissolves into the background. Why? Because nothing in him says no. He bends to every request, laughs at jokes he doesn't find funny, nods along to things he doesn't believe in. That isn't presence, that's absence disguised as politeness. Presence is not volume. Presence is boundaries. Presence is the invisible wall that says, I don't need you to like me. I'm already enough. And women sense it instantly. They can feel when a man isn't needy. They can feel when his no carries more gravity than his yes. Because any man can say yes. But the man who can deny, who can turn down, who can walk away, that's the man who glows. Do you think a man with standards begs? Do you think he waits by the phone hoping she finally decides he's worthy? No, he has a life to live. He has work to build. He has people who already respect him. His worth isn't up for negotiation. Let me paint it, she tests you, a late text, a half-invested plan, a maybe later tone. Most men panic. They scramble to prove they're still available. They adjust. They beg for scraps. But you cancel. You don't explain, you don't feel guilty. You don't whine, you just vanish. And her tone shifts overnight. Not because you punished her, but because you revealed gravity. That's the difference. He didn't pout, he disappeared. He didn't plead, he proved. Standards create aura. The higher the bar you hold for yourself, the rarer your presence becomes. Think about it, water is everywhere, so it's ignored. Diamonds are rare, so they're guarded. Which one are you acting like? Men without standards become entertainment. They'll wait hours for a girl who won't even look at them. They'll apologize for existing. They'll rush to buy attention. And every time, they shrink. The respect leaks out of them. They turn into background noise. If she flakes, you vanish. No chase, no echo. That's the rule. Why? Because chasing is charity. Chasing says, my time has no value. But disappearing says you just miscalculated. My time is rare. My energy is scarce. You don't get another shot that easily. And here's the reframe. He didn't lose her by saying no. He gained himself. He didn't cut her off because he's bitter. He did it because his path doesn't wait for stragglers. Your standards don't just protect you, they project you. They project an aura that others feel before you even open your mouth. People lean in because they can sense you're not like everyone else. You don't laugh to be liked. You don't nod to avoid conflict. You don't accept scraps because you'd rather rate alone than beg for crumbs. Ask yourself this: what is more attractive? A man who adjusts himself to fit everyone's expectations, or a man who calmly refuses to bend? Which one carries presence? Which one makes the room shift? Look at the strongest men in history. They weren't loud. They weren't clowns. They weren't entertainers. They were selective. They had standards, and their selectivity created gravity. People came to them because they wouldn't go to everyone. When you set standards, you filter. You filter friends, women, opportunities. You filter out the noise. And what remains? Quality, respect, gravity. The exact things most men are starving for, but can't find because they never said no. Standards aren't rules you shout at others. They're rules you hold yourself to. You don't demand she be on time while you're always late. You don't demand loyalty while you're flaky. Your standards start with you. That's why they're magnetic. People believe your no when they see you live by it. And here's the final truth. A man with no standards isn't neutral. He's weak. A man with standards isn't rigid. He's rare. The difference between fading into air and carrying aura is one word. So stop begging, stop adjusting, stop dissolving. Draw the line, hold the line, live by the line. Because when you do, you won't have to demand respect. Respect will orbit you. Words weigh nothing. when they spill out constantly. Talk is cheap. Talk is everywhere. That's why most men drown themselves in it. They ramble, they explain, they sell, they overpromise, and in doing so, they dilute every ounce of credibility they could have had. Powerful men don't spray words like bullets. They drop them like stones into water. Few, deliberate, and heavy. Each word ripples. Each word shifts the root. Talk less, mean more. That's the law. When you cut filler, your silence sharpens your speech. When you refuse to predict or suggest, and instead you declare, you stop sounding like a boy, hoping for approval, and start sounding like a man who has already decided. Do you trust the man with 10 promises or the man with one delivered? Who moves you more? The one who says, I'll try, I'll see, I'll think, or the one who says, done, you already know? Words backed by uncertainty are noise. Words backed by certainty are present. Here's the micro story. 2 men sit in an interview. One rambles, stuttering through every angle of his answer, drowning the room in fluff. The other pauses, looks the panel in the eye and says, I can solve it. Guess who gets the offer? This is the reframe. He didn't talk less because he was shy. He talked less because he valued the weight of his voice. He didn't pause because he was unsure. He paused because his silence carried more weight than another man's words. If they pressure you to explain, you shorten the answer. Why? Because long answers smell of insecurity. Short answers carry conviction. A man who can compress his truth into a sentence always outshines the man who writes a novel with his mouth. Let me break it down. Don't predict, state. Don't suggest. Declare. Stop saying I think maybe we could, and start saying we will. That shift alone changes how people perceive you. Boys guess. Men decide. Most men think words build presence. Wrong. Scarcity builds presence. Stillness builds presence. Fewer words, heavier meaning. Imagine a courtroom. One lawyer shouts, waves his arms, argues until he's red in the face. The other leans forward, lowers his voice, and says, Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence speaks for itself. Who owns the room? He didn't win by being louder. He won by being clearer. He didn't dominate through noise, he dominated through certainty. Every time you ramble, you prove you're not sure of yourself. Every time you shorten, you reveal you know your ground. Think of ancient kings. Do you think they filled the halls with chatter? Or do you think they spoke only when the kingdom needed it? Words were not free then. They were commands. They were oaths. They were final. That's why they carried weight. You can live the same way. Stop giving running commentaries of your every move. Stop promising the world when you haven't mastered your own street. Stop over-explaining to strangers who don't deserve a window into your head. Your words should be like currency, rare, valuable, and backed by gold. Not like playing money you scatter for free. Here's the rule. If he rambles, you compress. If he fills the silence, you let it stand. If he explains, you state. And when you do, you'll notice people lean in. You'll notice their questions get shorter. You'll notice your pauses command more attention than their speeches. That's aura, not from vocabulary, not from eloquence, from scarcity, from alignment, from words that match the man who speaks them. So talk less, mean more. Not because silence makes you mysterious, but because silence makes your words rare, and rare things hold weight. Attraction isn't about tricks. It isn't about chasing, pleading, or running in circles trying to impress her. Attraction is gravity. It's pull, not push. It's when your presence is so steady, she feels it without you lifting a finger. Women feel presence before they process it. They feel it in the way you hold eye contact without needing to win. They feel it in the way you lean back while she leans in. They feel it in your silence, your standards, your calm refusal to play games. Here's the micro story. At a cafe, you lean back, unbothered. She doesn't notice her own body betraying her. She leans forward, chasing the gravity you didn't advertise, trying to close the distance you created. What's hotter, desperation or discipline? You already know. Desperation is repellent. Discipline is magnetic. One makes her pity you. The other makes her test you. And when you hold the frame, her respect doubles. If she plays games, you don't. That's the rule. If she withholds, you don't beg. If she pokes, you don't react. If she flinches, you don't chase. Her games collapse when they meet stillness. Presence with women isn't loud. It isn't alpha theater. It's subtle but undeniable. She feels safe, but she's also challenged. Safe because your calm signals control. Challenged because you won't bend for scraps. That paradox is why presence is rare and why it's powerful. He didn't ignore her. He ignored the game. He didn't reject her. He rejected the test. That's the reframe. Women don't need you to perform. They need you to hold the ground. No one else can. Think of it like this. A man with no presence tries to lure her with constant words, constant texts, constant energy. A man with presence lets her orbit. His silence becomes the stage she steps onto. His standards become the filter she feels compelled to meet. Have you ever noticed the man who doesn't talk much at the table, yet every woman glances at him more than the loud guy telling stories? That's presence. It's not about being entertaining. It's about being undeniable. Attraction, when rooted in presence, doesn't feel like seduction. It feels like inevitability. She knows you don't need her validation, so her validation suddenly becomes worth offering. She knows you won't collapse under pressure, so testing you becomes exciting. Your calm is hotter than any pickup line. Your discipline is sexier than any joke. Your ability to sit in silence without fidgeting tells her more than 1,000 compliments. He didn't seduce her with lines. He seduced her with gravity. He didn't chase her with effort. He pulled her with stillness. Presence with women is about never making her the center of your oxygen. You are the center. She joins or she doesn't. Either way, your pulse doesn't change. That's the standard she feels. That's the difference between being an option and being the prize. So remember, if she plays games, you don't. If she tests, you don't break. If she leans forward, you don't lean back in desperation. You stay exactly where you are, because presence isn't about reaching. Presence is about pulling. That's an attraction, not chase. Gravity. Respect between men is not built on speeches. It's built on weight. It's built on what you carry without announcing, what you can withstand without flinching. Men sense presence before they even exchange words. Dominance games are everywhere. In the gym, in the office, at the bar. Some men bark loud, puff their chest, and throw their energy around. But presence disarms all of it. Why bark when silence makes them stumble? Why match noise when calm makes them question themselves? Here's the micro story. In the gym, one guy slams weights, grunts like an actor, trying to steal the room. Another guy, quiet, no theatrics. He lifts heavier, cleaner, sets the bar down without drama. Everyone notices, everyone respects. If he tries to flex, you don't mirror, you watch. That's the rule. His flex is a test. Your stillness is the answer. The moment you mirror, you become a participant in his insecurity. But the moment you watch, you remind him of the hierarchy. The man who doesn't need to react already won. He didn't ignore the challenge. He dissolved it. He didn't back down. He held the frame so firm the other man ran out of gas. That's presence with men. When two men meet, respect is measured in silence, in steadiness, in whether you can hold your ground without needing to explain or posture. Men don't respect the one who yells the longest. They respect the one who doesn't move an inch. Have you noticed? The loudest man in the room is rarely the most respected. He's entertaining, sure. He's visible, sure. But the man who makes other men lower their voices without saying a word, that's real power. Presence makes other men adjust. They speak shorter. They glance more. They measure themselves differently. Because your energy shifts the air. And the paradox is brutal. The more you try to prove your presence, the more you kill it. He didn't silence the room with force. He silenced it with weight. He didn't dominate through aggression, he dominated through gravity. So stop trying to outdo, outshout, or outflex other men. Let them perform. Let them waste breath. You stand. You observe. You do your work with precision. That alone draws more respect than 1,000 speeches. Remember, if he flexes, you don't mirror, you watch. If he tries to dominate, you don't submit, you stand. If he seeks reaction, you starve him. Because respect between men isn't earned in noise, it's earned in presence. Presence isn't a gift, it's a discipline. It's trained like muscle, sharpened like a blade. Every day you either strengthen it or weaken it. And the truth is brutal. Most men weaken it without even knowing. Presence starts in the body. Train your posture. Shoulders back, chin level, chest open. Not puffed up, rooted. Because if you can't hold yourself, why would anyone else feel held around you? Next is your voice. Too many men speak like they're rushing to escape their own words. Slow it down. Drop it lower. Cut the filler. Every pause is power. If you can't stand behind silence, your words carry no weight. If you can't hold silence with yourself, how will you hold it with others? If you can't sit still for a moment without distraction, how will you anchor someone else in your presence? Here's the micro story. A man waits for his coffee. No phone, no fidgeting, no rush. 10 people in line twitch, scroll and shuffle. He just stands, calm, centered. The barista notices, the line notices. Without moving, he owns the room. That's discipline, that's practice. Presence isn't built in the big moments, it's built in the ordinary ones. If he grabs his phone the second boredom hits, you stay still. If he talks to fill silence, you let it stretch. If he fidgets, you ground. Rule, if you want presence, you must practice stillness daily. He didn't wait for confidence to appear. He trained it into habit. He didn't fake calm. He became calm through repetition. That's the difference between a man who performs presence and a man who radiates it. So start small. Sit with silence. Breathe deeper. Speak less. Stand straighter. Patience, posture, voice. These are your daily reps. Presence isn't something you switch on for a date, a meeting, or a fight. It's forged in the mornings, in the waiting lines, in the quiet hours when no one is watching. And here's the paradox. The less you chase presence, the stronger it grows. You stop forcing, stop faking, and start being. Because presence isn't about others bending to you. It's about you refusing to bend to yourself. He didn't chase, he chose. A man without standards runs after everything. A man with standards selects. Choice is power, not movement. You don't prove your worth by pursuit. You prove it by restraint, which carries more weight, a man sprinting after attention, or the man who makes others wonder why he walks away. He didn't explain, he declared. Weak men drown in justifications. Strong men state their truth once and leave it standing. A declaration is final. No backpedal, no padding. If you have to explain, you've already lost ground. Rule if they push you for more, you shorten your answer, not stretch it. He didn't rush, he waited. Speed is desperation. Stillness is control. The man who waits is the man who knows time bends toward him. Micro-story, a crowded bar, everyone talking over each other. He leans back, silent. Minutes later, she breaks the chaos, leaning in. What are you thinking? Presence pulled her. Patience did the work. He didn't fill the silence. He ruled it. Silence is uncomfortable only for those without an anchor. But for the man with presence, silence is the spotlight. He doesn't scramble to cover the gap. He lets others stumble, squirm, and reveal themselves. Ask yourself why bark when silence makes them fold first. He didn't beg. He let absence speak. Begging is noise. Absence is echo. You can't argue with a man who disappears. You can only feel the void he leaves. If he clings, you detach. If he explains, you cut it short. If he kneels, you vanish. Every line is a subtraction, not an addition. He didn't chase, he chose. He didn't explain, he declared. He didn't rush, he waited. He didn't fill the silence, he ruled it. He didn't beg, he let absence speak. That is the formula. Presence is not about stacking more words, more moves, more gestures. Presence is about peeling away until only gravity remains. Because in the end, power isn't shown by what you do, it's shown by what you refuse to do. Presence is not about identity, it's about behavior. Women don't respond to labels, they respond to the weight of your actions. Do you think respect is optional? Or do you understand that without it, every move you make collapses? Consent is non-negotiable. Respect is not strategy, it's standard. She is not a prize you win, not an enemy you defeat. She is a human being with her own will. The man who forgets that becomes a clown. The man who honors it becomes untouchable. Picture this: a woman pulls back uncertain. The weak man begs, presses, argues. The strong man nods, steps back, and lets her choice stand. Guess who she respects more? Rule: if she says no, you stop. If she withdraws, you don't chase. You mirror. He didn't push, he paused. He didn't demand, he accepted. Power is not in forcing, it's in holding your frame regardless of outcome. Because your standard isn't to control her, it's to control yourself. In the end, respect is gravity. It doesn't shout, it doesn't scramble, it simply pulls. Because it is rooted in discipline, not desperation. And the man who respects choice always walks away, stronger than the man who ignores it.